Hey, it's Kimosabe here, giving you a weekly candle close update. Since we have the weekly candle close, we did not close a higher high, as we can tell, closed a lower high. And a nice, sell off here into the close. So this looks like a pretty symmetrical candle going on, wick at the high, wick at the low. So it's just liquidity, liquidity. Since we did not close a weekly candle higher high, I think we still have some more chopping to do in here, which would make sense. So if we do, since we have a weekly candle close, same as I do always, is I measure the wick. And you can see the 50% of that wick is at 103,700 roughly. So I will mark that off. We'll get rid of the fib retracement tool. So we have that marked off right at the center of the wick. The way I usually treat the wicks is you have your weaker sellers at the bottom of the wick, stronger sellers at the top. So that could offer resistance right there. And the same thing at the bottom. You have 50% of that wick that could offer buy support. And we could mark that off as well. We might just be ranging inside of there. So take a Fibonacci retracement of that wick. And that just happens to coincide with previous supports. So I'll label that one green. And we could chop around in there, or we could come and break the lows, like I was saying in yesterday's video. Here we are dancing around the 100,000 area, trying to get that liquidity. See anybody that wants to sell around there. Let's jump it down to the daily chart and see what we see. So on the daily, like I said in yesterday's video, we do have this wick right there, center point being at 98,500. And as I also stated, this leg is what I was anticipating, if not worse. So let's take a Fibonacci extension measurement of that leg down and measure it from the high. That gets you the 1-to-1 fib extension at 98,815. This is in log scale, by the way. So that could be your buy setup if it's going to repeat this pattern. I would wait for an uptrend to start after hitting that wick. If you do want to catch a knife, I'd say at the bottom of that wick would be your stop loss at 97.5. But I'd like an uptrend to start out of there, or out of current area. I'm fine with that as well. It does look like local accumulation right there for a bounce, but you may be getting a lower high on a 4-hour at that 103,709 area, which would kind of look like this. This would be your lower high, and you might wick down and bounce right back up. We'll see what tomorrow brings with your inauguration and basically liquidity, because the markets are closed with the exception of Bitcoin. So you could have this wick right here, this candle with the wicks on both sides, and end up closing in the same area. If that happens, I'd be more bullish. I'd be expecting this whole pattern to play out because it would look really good. As of right now, I'm not convinced until we get a bounce and see what it does. But yeah, so far it is matching that leg, and the buy setup would be at 98,815. But I'm only expecting a bounce there and eventually to be taken out. Probably come down, maybe 96 to that high of this candle. Maybe come back and test that and just stop anybody out that bought here. Maybe we come and grab the liquidity up top and then flush down, that I was kind of suggesting yesterday. In the pattern, it might be an Elliott wave pattern if you get down here sometime by tomorrow morning, and then up for the day, and then flush down, something like that, maybe down to 96, something like that. And I would essentially be matching it over here with like some kind of A, B, C in reverse. So kind of acting the same way. So this would actually probably be a little tighter and a big flush down very, very quickly. but then closing the daily candle above 100K, I think that would look more bullish. And then the candles would move up, probably break all-time high, and then come back down and support at $100,000 before a resumption upward in February or at the end of the month. We will see. Bringing it down to the 4-hour here. Nasty selling on the 4-hour. But look at how that matches. That ABC pattern is kind of matching this ABC pattern, or even in reverse. So it looks good for now as long as you find support above that wick where there was some demand there. So it doesn't look bad. However, locally, you do have that sell set up at 103,709 on the 50% of the weekly wick. And we can measure from the 4-hour candle close low to where we may be closing low on this one and project from the high, giving us our sell setup. So if you do, well, you already closed a lower low on the 4-hour. This is where you would look for your lower high, and that would be a sell setup when you essentially broke down the trend line there, right there, and you break down. So then you come back and back test this distribution area, and then maybe sell off again. But if you do break above those highs for that liquidity, then I would expect that ABC pattern to play out. Something like down to here for Monday morning, back up, grab the highs, and then big rejection down low. Ooh, there's liquidity over there. Well, some of that liquidity maybe. Touch that wick. So that's if it breaks above last week's high. Something to be aware of matching patterns. This leg down can be matching this, in which case you would expect sideways pop up and then go into the sell setup before repeating this leg down. And then you can get a bounce out of there, maybe at 94, get a bounce back up, and then maybe flush down. And then I would say you're probably going to take those lows. If that pattern does come, I'd probably say those lows are going to be taken sometime in February. So it might be grinding out in here if it does play that pattern. Not to say it has to. The invalidation of that pattern playing, though, is pretty easy. Break above those highs. Currently, it looks like it just gives you a pattern that would look similar to this. But if you break above those highs, that invalidates that pattern. That's why I would be more bullish for this to then go up. So I hope that makes sense. I hope it was helpful. Yeah, just wanted to give a quick update. So have a good night and keep your stops tight.